Okay, this section is about binomial distribution. Um, Binomial distribution is a probability distribution where the main thing we are looking for is that you should have two possible outcomes. So uh, this is a condition for binomial, that there must be two disjoint outcomes of each trial. And then this is also a condition that there must be a fixed number of trials. And uh, this is also a condition that there must be a constant probability of success on each trial. And the trials must be independent. So the four conditions are these top three, and then the trials must be independent. Whereas here it's saying that the trials are dependent. So this is the one that is not a criterion for binomial. 20% of adults in a particular community have at least a bachelor's degree. Suppose X is a binomial random variable that counts the number of adults with at least a bachelor's degree in a random sample of 100 adults. Which of the following is not a correct interpretation of probability X is less than equal to 75? So less than equal to 75, you know what that means. Um, and let's see, this says the probability that less than 76. Okay, so less than or equal to 75 is the same as less than 76. We know that. The probability that at least 75, no. At least 75 means 75 or more, whereas this is saying 75 or less. So this is not a correct interpretation. But let's look at the other two also. The probability that at most 75, now at most 75 means less than or equal to 75. Yeah, 75 or less would mean the same thing as at most 75. So that's the same as here. And then this says that no more than 75. So no more than 75 again means the same thing, 75 or less, which is what this is saying. So the other three statements are exactly what this one is saying, whereas B is the odd one out. What does it mean to say that the trials in a binomial experiment are independent? So again, here, let's think about what independent means in English, that one thing doesn't depend on the other. So let's see which one captures that meaning. No more than one, no, that's not the independence. The outcome of one trial does affect the outcome of the next trial. So now that will be dependent. That will not be independent if one thing is affecting the other. Each trial will result in success or failure. Yeah, that's nothing to do with independence. The outcome of one trial does not affect the outcome of other trials. Yes, that is what independent means. Okay, determine if the following is a binomial experiment. So the random sample of 30 high school seniors is obtained and the individuals are asked their heights. So remember, the key thing in the binomial experiment is that every time you ask a question, there are only two possible answers. So now when you ask a student their heights, there can be multiple answers. Students can have all kinds of different heights. So this is not a scenario where you have two possible heights. So that's not a binomial experiment. Because the trials are so okay. Well, this one is not true because the trials are independent, because one student's height would generally be independent of another student's height. So it's still a no, but not because of the reason they are saying here. Let's look at the second reason. It says does not represent a binomial experiment because the variable is continuous and there are not two mutually exclusive outcomes. So that's the reason, because as we talked about, instead of two, there could be multiple answers here. Determine whether the following probability experiments are binomial. Give reason. An experimental drug is administered to 30 randomly selected individuals with the number of individuals responding favorably recorded. Now, this is a binomial experiment because you either have a favorable response or you don't. So that's the main condition, that you have to have two mutually exclusive outcomes at each trial. And then it's remember the other conditions were, let's go back and look what the other conditions were. The other conditions were this first one, that there must be two. Okay, that one we've already seen. There are two outcomes: either you will respond favorably or you will not. There's a fixed number of trials. Remember, this was doing 30, you were doing it 30 times, so that's the fixed number here. And then there's a constant probability of success in each trial, so there has to be a constant probability of getting a favorable response, depending on what kind of drug is. So it is a binomial experiment because all the conditions are met here. And usually the main condition you have to check is that whether you have two outcomes or less or more than two outcomes. So two outcomes is binomial, otherwise it's not.